Welcome to What's in a Game. On today's show, the Denver Nuggets are facing their first real adversity of the season. And how are they responding? Well, the results are mixed. Stay tuned as we break it down. Welcome back to What's in a Game. I'm Grace Jean here with my co-host Will Jones. How are you doing today, Will?
Great.
Yay.
No, good to be here. Pwat's had a great game. He finally had the Pwat game, as Sammy Infer is pointing out. He's been doing pretty well with the starting lineup. And I mean, we'll talk about it more, but my mind's jumping to questions that I probably shouldn't be asking at this point with him playing with the starters.
What types of questions? I want to know.
Like, if his 3-point shot is real or keeps up, and this is one game against the Pelicans, like, is he gonna be filling in as a starter at some point? What does that mean for Christian? What does that mean for his free agency? So I'm trying to just enjoy him doing well, but questions to be asked.
Well, you know what happens is when a team doesn't extend the player in the summer, it invites these questions as the season goes on, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we'll definitely talk about some of that as we break down some of Peyton's game. I will say I don't think that Peyton's ever gonna, barring like a really unusual circumstance, I don't think that Peyton's gonna fill in as a starter when everybody's healthy, right? I think that seems pretty apparent. We know even last season that like part of the mutiny against Malone was like he replaced Christian with Russ for like 2 games when everybody was healthy, and then everybody got mad at him for that.
Yeah.
Even though Russ was playing better than him at that time. And DA is subject to the same locker room politics as every other head coach in the NBA. So I think that's part of it too. But Peyton is starting, and we did talk about on our last show, we didn't know about the full injury update, and we'll talk about that. But one of the questions that we asked was, or one of the things we discussed was like, would Peyton like for sure be a starter when one of Cam or Christian gets back from at that point? Both of them were out with their various ailments. And I said like it's definitely going to be Peyton when Cam comes back. Because if for literally no other reason, like basketball reasons, be jammed, whatever, you're not going to be starting 32 or 33-year-old Tim Hardaway Jr. over Peyton Watson in a contract year when there's an opportunity for somebody to fill in, right? Because of those politics, right? We'll talk about the actual basketball of the thing, but I think it's totally fair to have some conflicting thoughts and feelings about how all of this is playing out for sure. Because it is, it's money. Like at the end of the day, and money's a really touchy subject. Before we dive into the show, programming notes. We don't have any programming notes. Just please remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons. That really helps us out with the algorithm as we continue to try and grow the channel. Just a reminder for anybody who hasn't heard it in previous episodes, like this season, especially our weekly shows are going to be centered on around Wednesdays and Thursdays. I think it's been a Thursday every single week because
it's always
except for opening week, the Nuggets have not played on a Thursday, which has been great for me anyway.
Yeah. We're probably not streaming on days where there is going to be a game that night. So if you look at the schedule and it's Wednesday or Thursday, whichever day doesn't have a game, we're probably likely to be streaming then.
Yeah. And actually for next week is Thanksgiving and the team is off for like 3 days. Let me see their schedule for this week upcoming. How many games do they have? They play the Rockets on Friday, which is the big game everybody's been talking about with the Cup. And then they play the Grizzlies. So we might change things up for next week. Or we might not do a show next week. We'll put the answer to that out on our socials once we figure that out. Because there are only going to be 2 games and, family holiday and all that good stuff. So look out for that announcement as well. All right. News item. And we alluded to this at the top of the show. Christian Braun is going to be out for at least 6 weeks with an ankle sprain. This was actually announced, I think, like 15-ish minutes before the team put out the news. It was, I believe they did this after our last show, which was last Thursday, the day after the Clippers game. So they did this on Friday because they had a 2-day break between Clippers and Wolves. We knew that Cam and Christian were probably going to be out for like a few games because they left the previous game and didn't come back. Cam had the arm strain is what it was. And later we find out it was a biceps. And Christian had an ankle sprain. And I thought, okay, ankle sprain, like he might miss like a week or two. It was nasty enough that he couldn't come back into the game. So you knew he was going to miss some time or shouldn't have come back into the game. We'll say. I'll touch on that. But yeah, what was your first thought when you saw the Shams notification that Christian was going to be out for 6 weeks? I think that period of time was surprising to me, given the circumstance.
It is a bit annoying because when other players injure their ankles, it definitely doesn't seem to be this long. And
I mean, there's different severities of ankle sprains.
Yeah, but
and I've seen like longer ones too, but it is usually shorter. But this tells you that it was a pretty bad one, right?
Yeah. I mean, I always think ankle sprains can be time intensive when it comes to returning to playing time, especially when you see them. But I've seen like some nasty ones where people come back in like a week or they can even still just keep playing. And obviously ankles are something that NBA players work really hard to strengthen in their training. And I've twisted my ankle and it still bothers me, but I'm not a professional athlete. And so it doesn't surprise me that someone is out that long. But when I'm thinking of the trend of seeing that injury specifically, 6 weeks was definitely more than I thought. And I was definitely concerned. And I figured Tim would start. And then with Cam being out, Peyton starting as well. But then with Cam coming back, we have Pwat starting and Tim returning to the bench. So I had questions about the starting lineup for sure, but definitely just sucks to have a starter out, regardless of what you think about CB playing. It's just one less
if
body.
For no other reason, you're moving other guys up the depth chart and giving other guys more responsibility than they necessarily can like excel in. And we'll talk about how they've been faring without him, in subsequent games. But like my first thought when I saw this was like 6 weeks. Why the hell did he try to come back into that Clippers game and play?
Yeah,
because he left the game with the ankle sprain. It was questionable to return and came back in the second half and was like, couldn't like he like it was immediately apparent that he shouldn't have been out there. And I'm like,
Sheesh Main from the chat is asking about this specifically.
Can you guys explain why Adelman brought CB back into the game after he was injured? No, I cannot. And like the idea, I've never worked on a training staff for a professional sports team, but it seems like if the ankle sprain ultimately turned out to be bad enough that Christian has to miss at least 6 weeks, is what I said, because the official announcement from the team is that he would be reevaluated in 6 weeks. Okay. If it was that bad, was there no way to have assessed that he should not have gone back into that game without him going back into the game? Like testing it. And it was immediately apparent. It's not like he played for a few minutes and then was like, it's just not gonna hold up. And obviously it's pretty severe for him to miss this much time. So it makes sense why he looked so bad in the second half of that game, like for the couple minutes that he was out there. What doesn't make sense to me is why they weren't able to figure that out before putting him back into the game. The other question I had about this whole situation is that, like, why did we learn about Christian Braun's status from Shams? Because he came out with the announcement like 15 minutes before the team, and it's like, okay, whatever. Shams gets told stuff by people's teams, by the team's people all the time before the official announcement comes out, whatever. But that was on top of waiting. At that point, it had been 2 days after, the actual like injury happens in game before we get this news. And like, I get it. You have to get like evaluated by a specialist and whatever. But I think it's weird how, like, we've talked about this with the Nuggets training staff before. Like, they are so shadowy when it comes to the players' statuses. We heard, I was like lightly complaining about this, I think, with Jamal Murray having calf tightness on the injury report a couple weeks ago, and then like playing subsequently. The only game that he missed was Pacers, and he's been like questionable with calf tightness. Then he's just off the injury report for that. He still has a couple stinkers even after he's off, that thing is off the injury report. And then you have, and maybe it's just because they don't know, and you have Hastings on the call for Altitude Sports being like, well, Jamal's dealing with a thing. And I'm like, no, I don't know, because they took the thing off the injury report. So I have no idea what's going on, with these players. It's just like kind of adding to a growing frustration of mine with the way that maybe maybe the frustration with how injuries are managed is actually more a frustration with how like the transparency about that is like non-existent with this team. And I don't want to compare them to the Sixers, but like, what the hell? It just seems, and that now you've got, AG on the injury report for bilateral hamstring injury management, which is like, okay, so is this rest? But last time they tried to get him rest, they only used one hamstring on the injury report. Is he actually hurt? I don't know. According to DA, either pregame or postgame, he was like, well, AG, he did his like warm up and like it wasn't feeling good. So this, that, and the other. And maybe DA is just like covering for them because they're trying to get AG rest and like all this. It's just like, it doesn't help because it just kind of adds to the whole like mounting frustration on that front. Yeah, so that's my rant with like the way that the Nuggets are handling like injury reporting and all that kind of stuff. But it's definitely frustrating. I do think that Denver's going to miss Christian. Being out for missing a starter for 6 weeks is huge. I will say I was surprised that Cam Johnson came back as quickly as he did, because when I heard it was a bicep strain, even though I think Vinny Benedetto was the one who got has a source within the team that told him that Cam would be day-to-day, even though he missed the Wolves game. I thought, okay, he's going to be day-to-day. He's got to be missing at least a few weeks, because like that sounds like a more serious injury. But then he was just back, and not just back, but playing maybe better than he had all season. Not maybe, like clearly better than he had all season. So I know these things can be tricky. Sheeshmain says Brown left and Cam does well. I'm noticing. You know what, Sheshmain? Your handle reminds me of apparently a nickname that I was not aware of for Nikola Vucevic, who that I heard on the call of the Bulls Blazers game yesterday when Vooch had a game-winning buzzer beater 3. And the Chicago broadcasters were calling him Vucci Main.
Vucci Main. Man, I was looking at the stats of that game when he hit that dagger 3 or game-winning shot, whatever you want to say.
I was surprised that the Blazers even made it close, because they were down like 10 pretty late in that game.
Yeah, that game too. I thought it was
just going to be a comfortable.
But against the game against us, he only made like 3 shots that whole game.
I know, he was
and
bad.
That was one of them.
That was one of them. He was bad in that game. And then he saved them.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else you want to say about CB before we move into
let's
some games?
Keep it moving.
All right. Let's get to the game summary portion. So let's go over this 3-game, not road trip, but like it was an home away set. First game at Minnesota against the Timberwolves. Nuggets come out with the W, 123-112. The Wolves were on a back-to-back. Who did they play that previous night? Was it the Kings? And the Nuggets were down 2 starters, Christian and Cam. I will say, like, Denver did put up 123 points. They just put up 120 plus points in their sleep now, apparently. But this was definitely more of a defensive game to me, that I think they were able to put up the points that they did because they got it out of the mud. A lot of it was like transition, semi-transition off of really good defensive stops. On top of that, I thought Jamal's drives were really important for Denver to create offense in this game. He was getting into the paint. He was getting into the paint at will, not scoring there at will. I will say he started off the game like highly inefficient. That's I think the biggest contributor to his final stat line, which had him shooting like 40% from the field or something. But he was constantly getting downhill, playmaking out of it, and that was really important for Denver's offense in that game. I thought Jokic was a bit more deferential offensively in that game. He was already like going to be like questionable with like a left wrist thing, and he's been wearing a wrist wrap ever since the Clippers game. This is what happens. Jokic has a historic game. Everybody starts talking about him in like GOAT convos, and then he's like on the injury report with a wrist thing the next game.
Yeah, we thought his wrist was fine, but wasn't it the other wrist that's
Yeah,
hurt
it
than
was.
the typical one?
This is the left wrist now, which is his non-shooting wrist. So I hope
Which I
that's
guess you got to feel somewhat better about that.
yeah.
But yeah,
Although like he's been like not really inefficient, but relatively inefficient, particularly in the paint compared to obviously like the 3 games prior, including that ridiculous game.
that was like
against the Clippers.
historic.
Yeah.
But yeah, Fake Talk FC brought up Pwat playing amazing defense on Ant,
Yes.
and Ant definitely had a weird game, and Pwat did do a good job on him, and it was just a great win because we were out 2 starters. I didn't know how the Nuggets were going to look, and it's the Wolves at home with Ant, big expectations, and that was a really huge win. Like I was so happy after that. It was like on a huge high.
I was just like, well, I predicted a W for this game, so
Oh yeah, I predicted an L.
I was right. But then the Bulls game happened. But a couple other things on the Wolves game. So yeah, Peyton did a great job on Ant. I thought the team did a really good job on Ant. We're gonna go over some defensive film. Unfortunately, a lot of the play-by-play,
Yeah, that
both the
game's messed
data
up.
and the clips from this game were just like completely out of commission for the NBA, and it's really hard. It was really hard to try to screen record off of the full game footage, so that was really annoying. But I thought that Denver did a good job of just fully keying in on Anthony Edwards. It wasn't just the one-on-one stuff with Peyton, it was the blitzes, it was the doubling him immediately out of the post, which Ant tried to go to a number of times. And we played a lot of zone in that game. We're going to go over like how effective it actually was. But I actually thought the man-to-man stuff was a lot better in that game. Like better than the zone and like pretty just impressive, I thought, compared to some of their previous games. Because the Nuggets had been like I thought slipping defensively despite what the opponent's shooting was, and then we saw like the consequence of that in the Bulls game, but we'll get to that. Offensively, like I said, it felt a lot more like they got it out of the mud kind of game, regardless of what the final score says. But one of the things that came up against the Wolves in this game was just finishing at the basket was like impossible for Denver. Everybody was getting blocked at the rim. Except Jokic, although maybe he got blocked once, I don't know. But like Bruce, Peyton, like all the usual suspects, but on top of that, Jamal, maybe Val was fine. Val was pretty good in that game overall, though, on both ends of the floor. And that's just something to track because especially without Christian, who is like the maybe most reliable non-Jokic finisher on the team now, that AG's kind of lost some of his off 2 feet like vertical pop. That's just something to keep track of for such a paint dependent team. Yeah. Anything else you want to say about the Wolves game?
No, it's just funny that it's juxtaposed to this Bulls game where it was like great win, given the circumstance and context, to probably the worst loss of the season. I don't know if you'd agree with that.
Yeah, it's definitely the worst loss of the season. Definitely the worst loss of the season.
Because, damn.
So, Nuggets come home from their road trip, take a loss to the Bulls, 130 to 127. Outside of opening night against the Warriors, that's the most points they'd given up. Cam was back. He was awesome in that game, honestly, on both ends. Although like he didn't like pop defensively, but he had some good possessions. offensively, he was finally just making his shots and then continued on, like, making his 3-point shots and then continued on, his trend of, like, being an awesome cutter for this team and finishing things inside the arc, which is nice to see because he also, I think, has had stretches, like, I think against Portland where I'm like, "Why is this guy, like, barely getting off the ground on the way to the rim?" Kinda thing. This was their first home loss, and it just kind of, sucked. Honestly, like Cam and AG felt like the only guys that came ready to play in that game, like from tip. Like I thought it was a really like the box score will fool you, I think. Yoke has like a 36-point triple double. Jamal has like 30. Like when I saw that Jamal had over 30 points in that game, I was floored because I thought that Yoke and Jamal were like not meeting the standard in that game. I thought that they were very not like they were it's not that they weren't on the same page. There were several possessions where look they were reading different books, you
Yeah.
know. Um and a lot I thought the energy was like horrific like defensively from both of those guys. Honestly, and I had been giving Yoke tons of praise for being like really good as like a but by his standard as like a rim protector within the scheme that we were, running and this was just not that game. Like it was just not. But yeah, positive takeaway. Like I said, Cam finally made shots. It was his first game of the season shooting over 45% from the field. So that was pretty good. 5 of
Yeah.
7 from 3. The number 7, still want that to tick up as the season goes on. I think that's the highest number of attempts he's had this season. And to be fair, we've had a lot of games where he hasn't had to play in the fourth quarter. But we want the 3-point attempt rate to go up a little bit. And on the defensive side of this game, because I was trying to figure out how much I wanted to like break down in terms of where the issues were defensively in this game against the Bulls. But it was just so egregious on multiple levels that it was hard to pick even like summary clips because it was just like this, like they weren't playing basketball.
Yes.
So here's just some stats to kind of contextualize that. So the Bulls had 53 3-point attempts in that game. For reference, that is more than the Boston Celtics season average number of attempts. And they are like, maybe like they're not number 1 in 3-point attempt rate, but they're still top 3. They're a team you expect to take a lot of threes. I'm pretty sure 53 is still higher than whoever number 1 is. I think it's the Rockets. Or no, maybe the Blazers. Average attempts per game. So a lot of threes. How many of those? Oh no. This isn't the question part yet because I have a quiz for you in here, Will. The NBA classified 33 out of those 53 attempts as not open, wide open shots. That means there was no defender within 6 feet of that shot. Okay. And tracking data can be wonky, so I didn't want to look too much at like the open 3-point shots because that's like there's a defender within 4 to 6 feet.
Oh man.
But that was another 16 of those shots. So we're talking about just on the numbers 49, like 5 shots were contested effectively out of 53. Right?
Yeah.
And I really thought the problem the whole time wasn't scheme. Like a lot of people complained about like, oh, well, the zone is getting carved up, all this stuff. And I'm very critical of like zone is not a fix all. But I thought execution wise in man, in zone, in drop, everything, they were just a step slow to get to their guy. And it just everybody that put the whole team on the back foot when it came to rotation. And then those rotations were not being made. What do you think Chicago shot on their 33 wide open threes? Like how many of those do you think they made or what percentage of the wide open threes do you think they made?
My Trumpian answer is 150%. But realistically, oh god, 37.
Well, they only shot 33. Oh, 37%. Okay. They shot 27%
Damn
on
it.
their wide open threes. They went 9 of 33 on their wide open shots. So, yes, this game could have been worse, and honestly, I thought Denver should have been blown out in this
Yeah.
game. It was that bad,
Yeah, we
defensively.
we came back and it seemed like we had a chance to win in that second half, and it just like kept falling apart as well.
Yeah.
But I had the same exact experience as you, where I was gonna go grab some clips and like look for the different coverages, whether it was drop at the level zone, whatever. And I was just gonna look at like some Giddy clips, and then I was like, oh, Vucevic didn't even score in this game, so but it was like Io and other players, and
Yeah.
it literally was just like horrible mistakes by the Nuggets, losing guys, being back
Effort.
cut.
It was the execution stuff, which we'll talk about when we go to the clips for both Wolves and Pelicans. But the biggest difference between the Wolves and Pelicans games wasn't necessarily execution because there were breakdowns in both of those games too, but effort. Like the energy
Yeah,
was not
no
there.
one, no one wanted to close out. Two guys rotating to a spot where only one guy needed to, leaving shooters open. It was just like it was so easy. I couldn't even find like, well, the Nuggets tried different coverages and the Bulls did a good job countering that and playing this way. It was just like a lot of it was just so easy. It was just the most automatic, easy offense for them when I went back and looked at every bucket that the Bulls made.
One of the things that I think differentiates the Chicago Bulls offensively from both the Pelicans and the Wolves is that they make simple passes quickly. They don't have like outside of Giddy, they don't really have other like super high level playmakers that are gonna um, kill like a really good defensive coverage. Um and like thread the needle kind of guys. But they were all acting quickly, it felt like, and just making like find the open man, find the open man. One of the things in the zone is that they kept getting to the middle of the floor and then like easy dump off like immediately. Like I'm not even going to play around trying to like make this floater or anything like that. And I think that that's something that I'll give credit to Chicago on that. But I also think that it is a potential weak point for Denver against a team like, say, the Lakers that have a lot of guys that are able to make not just simple passes, but like high level passes quickly. Like it's the quick passing that really throws them off, where they're expecting a little bit more selfish play, I would say. And then that didn't happen and they got completely burned by it all night. So that's
Mm-hmm.
definitely something to look out for. And it's not that the Wolves and Pelicans are like selfish necessarily, but I think their players either within their scheme or like it's a personnel, player by player basis, overthink things a little bit sometimes once they have the ball. Whereas I think the Bulls did a really good job of everybody knew like what their role is. Like if they're open, they're taking the shot. If they're getting closed out on and someone else is open, like one or two passes away, they're immediately swinging that ball. There was
Mm-hmm.
not anybody that was like doing too much. Um, On Giddy, I don't think he had a great night, to be honest, but, like, he did finish the game like a -14 kinda thing.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people blame the bench for this game, and the bench was not good in the
Yeah.
Bulls game, to be very clear, but I
Uh,
don't think that the starters, like, did anything to, like, help them
right.
out with the way that they were playing. Um, but I thought that Giddy had a really easy time on Peyton because Giddy's actually, like, quite strong, and he plays pretty physically, and, because of the way that he gets to his shots, it's very much, like, get as deep as you can and then get to that floater or, in transition, like, get to that layups, that kind of thing, and I think Peyton is just a little bit too wiry to, like, keep Giddy in front, and that's something where I was like, I feel like they probably win this game if Christian played, because if nothing else, you could have made, like, the Giddy minutes an even bigger negative because I think that Giddy has a harder time with, like, a strong player like Christian.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah,
because
then like a
honestly, like,
slighter,
he's
quicker
kind of
player.
backless and, but he can use his strength when it's to his advantage.
I mean, I will say I did feel like a lot of the problems stemmed from playing drop a lot in that
Mhm.
game. Like Giddy could just come off a screen and he hit floaters and little jumpers that were pretty easy, not contested at all. And I feel like that led to other players just kind of, like if they needed to close out because of that coverage, they just were kind of like, I'm not doing that. Like we're playing drop. I'm not running out there. I'm not closing out on that, or I'm not rotating from this. And it just looked like it kind of flowed from that, but I'm not definitively saying like we lost because we played that coverage a lot.
Right. It was really
yeah.
like none of the coverages I thought were
Yes.
particularly well
In
executed.
the zone was also horrible, and just people being in horrible positions.
Poppin says also the Nuggets allowed a lot of corner threes, I think, when in other games they forced wing threes. Maybe. I don't know. Nuggets are also pretty high and up when you look at like the league rankings in allowing corner threes. So I don't think that they've necessarily not been allowing corner threes. Maybe they're allowing a few more wing threes, but like they're open, you know. And they finally got burned for it in this game. Anything else you want to say about the Bulls game?
No, let's get into this Pelicans game, this Pwat game.
This is the fun one. Okay. And we do have a couple of clips here before we dive into the offense from this game. So Nuggets go to New Orleans and they take the W against the Pelicans in a 125-118 win. And that final score is not indicative of how close this game actually was. Although it was a pretty ugly game, even as Denver was like taking a bigger lead in that fourth quarter. But another game where Denver puts up 125 points despite having 20 turnovers. The team had a 62% effective field goal percentage, which is absurd. That's like if the entire team had like trying to think of like the most recent star to have around like kind of KD efficiency on just the shots that they take, not including free throws. Might be even better, honestly, with KD at this stage. It was a really high-paced game because of all the turnovers, and I think from both teams. The Pelicans didn't put up a lot, but all of their turnovers were live ball, basically. Jokic in particular had a pretty gross turnover game. He had 9 out of Denver's 20. It was a combination of like live ball turnovers and some of these like weird screening fouls, but mostly live ball turnovers that were pretty bad. He actually turned it over on the like straight up like Pelicans get the ball in the first 2 possessions. I think the second one the Pelicans did like have a good like they stole it from him, but on the first one it was just like, what is this pass? Like what is going on here? But yeah, most of the stuff was completely unforced. So I have a couple of clips here just to illustrate the difference because I want to contrast it to some of the turnovers that Jokic had against Minnesota. And those are the ones that are more concerning to me in terms of like a roster narrative for the team going forward. Well, if you could bring up the bad pass to Peyton, question mark.
Yes.
Because I'm not sure who he was passing to here. So this is Jokic on the break. Zeke has the ball, gives it to Jokic. I'm immediately scared. And then Jokic just no look. Like literally no look, flings it to Jose Alvarado.
What was he thinking here? He it's like one of those eyes in the he was peripheral vision.
I guess he knew.
He must have not seen Alvarado.
If you go like further back, like backwards in the possession, he's like, oh, Jose is trailing behind like Jamal, right? So maybe he's trying to throw to Jamal here.
Yeah, I think
Jose catches up and he's like, Yoke just never looks back to see like what progress the various players had made up the floor.
Jamal's just hiding Alvarado right here in Jokic's blind spot, and Jamal just stopped running for some reason.
Thing is, if he had targeted Peyton's lane, I don't know. Like he's like in between where Peyton and Jamal would be. It's like not
weird pass.
It wasn't great. The next one, and I think this was a protest pass, is the bad pass to Zeke. If you could bring that one up, because this one was just like kind of hilarious. Honestly, in the moment, I actually laughed out loud. Like he thought this was AG here.
Yeah, he tried the no look pass. He was looking at Jokic or Jamal in the corner, and thought that was going to leave a really easy dunker spot dunk for Zeke, but guess he maybe was a little bit inaccurate, or Zeke jumped towards the rim. I don't know what he thought, but yeah.
Zeke wasn't even like he wasn't like in the dunker spot.
Yeah, it was,
Yo could have
I
just
don't know.
taken a dribble and then gone up for the floater there.
I think it was a little bit inaccurate, and it was a worthy try for a sweet no look pass. That would have been great.
Actually, if you could go to the beginning of that possession, I think, does Cam get like the very beginning? Oh no, Cam just runs, gets, draws two. I don't know what the Pelicans were doing. This is terrible defense by them. Like, Cam isn't affected, Jokic isn't affected there, and then Jokic gets to the middle of the floor, and like any other day, this is like a home run possession for Denver. But
Jokic should have just gone up with it.
Yeah, or just pass, or just actually pass to
lane.
Jamal in the corner. Peyton's being ignored here by Jose Alvarado, but I don't think that Jokic should worry about that because he's got his right hand. He could just dribble in and whatever, or he could just stand there, hold, see if they do anything in the middle of the floor, and take the midi. Lots of other options there than like wild lob pass to Zeke. But I want to contrast these two turnovers that were, to me, these were representative of the kinds of turnovers Jokic had against the Pelicans. But there were two against Minnesota that I thought were more representative of his night in that game. So if you could bring up the Jokic versus pressure.
Yes.
In this one, I think he's bringing the ball up the floor. Okay. And then he gets past his initial guy, which is Julius Randle. Great. And then Peyton, let's see, where does Peyton go? Or is that Julian? Yeah. Tries to ghost that. And then Tilly just comes in and like takes the ball, which this is not a necessarily on Jokic thing. Like when
play.
You're a 7-foot guy trying to dribble the ball is going to be more vulnerable, right? To these smaller players coming in and trying to like mess with your dribble or just get to the ball because the ball is further away from your body, right? It's under less control. If you could bring up the Jokic coming off a pin down one as well. So I do believe in both of these possessions. This is the same issue. So Jokic comes off a pin down set by Tim Hardaway Jr. Basically a double stagger here with Tim and Bruce for Jokic to come get the ball and dribble in. And then, he comes in. I don't think the dribble is bad. It's just like far away from his body, and Ant is able to come in and grab it. I don't actually know what.
Just kind of slipped out of his hands. Like he thought he was going to be able to dribble it, and it just falls out right there, and he can't keep it under control. Yeah. Just kind of unlucky on that one, I'd say. But yeah.
But I also thought that the Wolves' pressure in this game really affected him. I can't remember his total turnover rate. I think it was like 6 in this game too. And both of the ones that I just that we just showed here were in these non-Jamal minutes when we're running a lot of point Jokic. Now look, Bruce is on the floor, but he's not really initiating in these minutes. Like for the most part, it's very rare. Like we had some some bad misses, I think, by Bruce trying to like make a post entry last night. But for the most part in these minutes, it's Jokic like bringing the ball up, initiating, and doing all of that stuff. And I worry because of how it's looked over the last few games. Like, okay, it seems like good teams are definitely going to try to attack this look by just applying as much pressure to Jokic as possible and kind of mitigating his effectiveness that way. I do like the idea of having this, Jokic at point look as like a curveball, but it feels like the volume that Denver's kind of throwing it out there is giving teams a lot of, film to adjust on. Before we even, like, we're not talking about the playoffs right now. We're in the Nuggets are about to play game 15 of the season. So I'm worried about how that's going to proceed as the season goes on. I was listening to Lock on Nuggets, I think it was last week, And Matt Moore did say that he was talking to a scout at one of these games that said that Denver has been not a scout for the team necessarily, but just a scout for probably another NBA team or whatever. But Denver has apparently been quote unquote sniffing around for a backup point guard. And I do think that is, I think it's evident for the team that that is something that they really, really want.
Yeah.
I forget, our last show was after the Clippers game, and DA did say in that, like, last 5 minutes of that game, he put Jokic back in because the Clippers were pressuring them, and Jokic was, like, their second best ball handler, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is not good." You know?
Yes. I don't know. I'm not worried about it or anything. I think similarly, this is this weird lack of effort and letdown playing these two bad teams and not being locked in and focused.
But Minnie's not a bad team.
Oh yeah, but
And I thought they were locked in that game. It's just Minnie's a good team, and
how
it
many
was more of a
turnovers did he
defensive
have in
game.
that game?
I think it was 6. Let me check. Nuggets, Wolves. And he had some bad passes in that game, but I thought a lot more of those were, like, forced by Minnie's, like, coverages, more so than, like, the Pelicans game where I was like, "I don't know what the heck you're doing."
Yeah, that was a weird. Jokic is not a 9 turnover player, for sure. But
hope not. Yeah, against the Wolves, he had 6 turnovers. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would expect him to turn it over some versus the Wolves, who are supposed to, be athletic and have a swarming defense to some degree. I mean, they are known for that. Maybe not as
But
potent
it's not
as
like
the past.
these weren't coming off of the post or, like, on, like, scoring possessions for Jokic. It was like Jokic as an initiator, I think, was the main sort of look that was attacked in that way by Minnesota. And so that's something that I would, be concerned
Yeah.
about.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, let's go on to
the rest of so that was just something to chew on. Back to the Pelicans game though. Peyton Watson had a career high 32 points. And I think that was more of an offensive game for Denver. I know they had 20 turnovers, but the fact that they still put up 125 with, like, they were just whenever they got a shot, they made it for the most part. Except Jamal couldn't make a 3 to save his life. It was just all about, like, actually finishing your offensive possessions. Pels left Peyton open from 3. He had 9 attempts in this game, which is like, I don't love seeing that number. But, wait, was it 9 attempts? Because now I'm seeing.
Yeah, 5 of 9.
It was 5 of 9? Oh, okay.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I must have checked at a different point in the game because I wrote down 5 of 7. So yeah, 5 of 9 from
That would have
3.
been crazy.
5 of his attempts were in the corner. So around half his attempts. I thought Peyton also did a great job of just finishing his attempts at the rim. Honestly, the layups still feel like a 50-50 proposition, but he also had a lot of strong two-handed dunks in this game. If you could bring that clip up, Will, of one of his good, like, I love the strong two-handed dunks.
So yeah.
Pelicans, like, applying that pressure way up the floor, and then Jokic is able to find him on the back there.
Yeah, it's almost like a cherry pick play. They
and, like, Peyton
so
could have tried to, like, I'm gonna tomahawk this because I'm open, but he didn't. And this isn't even really like a dunk; it's just like a strong two-handed finish. Like, let me just make sure the ball goes in the basket because that's literally all that matters.
Stay disciplined.
Stay disciplined. But he also made his layups too, and I think the one we have here is if you bring up the made his layups, this is the reverse. So Cam finds Peyton in transition, and I don't love that he went up for a reverse here. He also didn't get, like, that high off the ground when he made it. They turned it into an and one, so he would have gotten free throws regardless, but he gets clearly fouled, so maybe he would have had, like, a stronger looking finish without getting fouled, but obviously he makes the layup, and that's all that
So,
matters. The reason
and
I bring this up is because I feel like making his threes and then finishing his layups was a recipe to, in this game where he starts and does all this stuff, was a recipe to score 32 points. I wouldn't have been surprised if, without the threes, he easily scored like 20 plus, right? But it was just a matter of like minimize your mistakes on finishing reps on offense, and then you're able to score a lot. And that's basically the Christian Brown formula.
yeah. Try, don't hesitate on threes, make your rim shots, make your dunks and layups, cut, and play good defense. And that's how CB made his money and got paid. And Peyton hadn't been able to really show that
Christian
formula.
didn't get paid by playing good defense.
Well,
but Peyton is playing good defense. And although I think he struggled against Gideon, he also didn't have great energy in that game. He was really good in the Wolves game, and I thought he was really good last night as well, defensively.
I think, but Christian is thought of as like a good defender for us, our wing defender. I know that you've not been happy with his defense, but like that is the formula, is like play defense, rebound.
He rebounds. He does like all the other stuff. It's just like the actual like on defense stuff that's not great. But Christian, he minimizes his mistakes and like does the little things like rebounding, setting good screens, all of that stuff too, which he should get credit for, and is going to get lots of credit for in the form of a $125 million contract.
Mm-hmm.
Vyacheslav says, I like everything that Pwat did last night on both ends. By far the best player on the court. Wow. Despite Jokic getting a, 27 point triple double. Peyton was really good. I think he had an argument for top 4 player on the floor last night. But yeah, play finishing will get you that, because people are like, oh, look, he made buckets, and that's great. Like, it's better than missing those shots like he did, frankly, in the Wolves game and the Bulls game. Like, a lot of people are like, he's better than Christian. And I'm like, the first 2 games that he started in that spot were like, oh my God, can this guy make a layup?
Yeah. But also, I mean, how often did we get Peyton starting last season? I don't even remember.
It was not often, because most of the time that somebody was out, it was Russ starting in their place. And
it's like any young player like that. I mean, we've gone over this so many times with like, they need Jokic minutes almost. It's going to boost their stats. And Peyton doesn't have great stats off the bench this season. He's been starting. His stats are much improved, but he's playing with Jokic and much better players and spacers. But he's still got to make the shots when they come. So that is definitely a thing, but there is going to be a bit of a boost. But if he could keep this up consistently, where offense is coming a little bit easier to him, whereas he's making some threes here and there, he's finishing at the rim a lot more consistently, then might start asking some questions.
Yeah.
Because he's like, he could be the best screen navigator, like perimeter defender type that you'd want next to Jokic theoretically, right?
Yeah, and actually, if you could bring up the split cut at the end of this game, Peyton has a great finish off of this one. So nice set. They entered the ball. He just immediately, like, he just knew this was I thought this was such a great possession, because Peyton was like, a lot of people talk about Peyton having a lot of confidence, like as a shooter, sometimes driving recklessly in transition, all this kind of stuff. But Peyton approached this possession like he knew exactly what he needed to do on the play, goes in, executes it, and it like doesn't hesitate at all to immediately you can hit play. To immediately just like follow through on those steps, catch the ball, finish confidently. Like, the finish is very confident and all of that, but it's really like all the steps that led up to that, entering the ball into Jokic, going to set a good screen for Tim Hardaway Jr. to set up this positioning, and then slipping there so that he can get that cut. And then obviously everyone's going to remember the really confident finish. But the thing with like the biggest difference, or the biggest difference in the past between having like Christian and Peyton in the lineup because you could say like, well, both guys are ignored from 3, so that doesn't matter. And if they're making their shots, great, but if they're not making their shots, whatever. Is it Christian knows where to be on offense. Like he always knows, like for the most part, like we've talked about like in the past, like random playoff scenarios, whatever, where it's like, Christian, like, what are you doing there? The spacing's weird. But that is so rare for him. Whereas with Peyton, the reason I point out like a simple split cut action here is because it's like, oh my God, he knew exactly like what to do and where to be on an action. And that's like surprising to us. And I think
Yeah.
one of the um okay, I'm gonna digress a little bit here. uh
Okay.
so I've been listening to a lot of like football analysis podcasts. I'm trying to understand this very strange sport called football, right? And I remember listening to somebody talking about a player who's like a really good, I think, tight end on a team. But they're talking about how one of his weaknesses is like run blocking and how other teams will be able to attack the team that he's on, uh, attack him when they're on offense by exploiting the fact that he's bad at that offensive thing. So as to negate his like otherwise offensive um uh value to that team. Okay. And that like really resonated with me in terms of understanding why certain players in the NBA, despite being able to put up stats, even put up like efficient stats offensively, aren't necessarily seen as like impactful offensive players, if that makes sense. Because offense is not just about the finish of the play, it's about everything that leads up to that. The creation of the advantage, whether you're the player that's on the ball or off the ball, setting the good screen, knowing where to be, knowing where not to be so that you're not, there. And then obviously in basketball, you get this accumulation of 100 plus possessions per game. And all of these little margins add up to, how efficient a team is on that end of the floor. Okay, going back to Peyton Watson, it's not just about, being able to put up these points, even putting up these points efficiently. It's like, how does he fit into the scheme of the offense? And this is not like the first game where he's ever like, wow, he made a really good read there, either on or off the ball. But it's about the consistency of, of being able to fit within that system and make everything run efficiently, not just, making your shots, if that makes sense. Right. And I think that he can get there, but it's, taken some time, right? If that makes sense. And that I think is the biggest difference between Christian and Peyton right now. And obviously Christian has had the um the opportunity and the reps to kind of get there, but he also like mostly like came out of the box not making mistakes on
Yeah.
offense, which helped. Like he wasn't always making his shots, but he rarely was like, ah shit. Like you're like, oh, what is Christian doing kind of thing. He's had his like stretches, especially like that second year when he was trying to venture out as they wanted him to like expand his game or whatever. But um that I think is like the difference between those two players right now. And that's not to say that Peyton can't get there. It's just I want to sort of temper the conversation a little bit, if that makes sense, around Peyton, as he's probably going to have a pretty good stretch, especially in terms of the production, and even the impact on the floor while he's playing with the starters over the next now, 5+ weeks.
And what are you tempering? Like, what do you want people to?
I think like Peyton has a lot of people see Peyton has a 32-point game and they're like, he's better than Christian. Like ship off CB. We want Peyton to do this thing now as long as he can make layups. And I just want part of the evaluation of Peyton over this period to be about those process questions, because that's really been the main concern over the last few years.
Were you surprised at all that this offensive explosion came like starting him at the 2 essentially?
I mean, he's been starting at 2 for a couple games. No, I'm not sure, because most of his it's not like his opportunities were oh, we want you to like ISO this bad smaller defender. It was knowing where to be on cuts. And we have some more, film of that to go over. Knowing where to be on cuts. I thought he rebounded really well, and that could be a part of it, right? He had 12 rebounds in this game, career high. I don't know how I didn't track how he did on the glass in the previous 2 games where he was also starting at the 2 or 3, depend like in the game where Cam missed, however you want to think about that. And that's a big thing because rebounding has been an issue for him. I will say against the Bulls, on the question of the glass, I thought Giddey like ate his lunch in that respect. Like Peyton was just not boxing out, and a lot
Yeah.
of Giddey's offensive rebounds came as a result of that.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily think that it's like playing Peyton at the 2 is like a cure-all for even like 80% of some of the biggest concerns. But I think he just had a really good game, and I want to give him credit for that. Like I think it's not just about like the position you put a player in, like they have to, fully take advantage of that. And I thought he did in this game against the Pelicans.
Yeah, the Bulls game, he felt like he didn't have any impact on the game, and I was definitely disappointed in that. But I was disappointed in almost everybody in the Bulls except for Cam Johnson, who his defense was also good.
Like AG is the reason that they got back in the game.
Yeah, and I just want to say really quick, I forgot to say during the Bulls segment, was just that like I saw all those defensive mistakes, but the only one who was like somewhat in good positions and was contesting was Cam. And everyone else was kind of sucking. Bulls? Yeah, against the Bulls. Yeah. But more Peyton offense.
Just I want to go over the offense, but just to talk about the end of this game against the Pelicans a little bit. Jokic fouls out at the end of this game on like the dumbest offensive foul that was like clear. Like Jokic like clearly pushes Trey Murphy out of the way when he has 5 fouls. Then he gets DA to challenge it. And like I was okay with DA challenging it, but also not because it's like clearly a foul. But it's like, well, if there's even like a 2% chance that you can make sure that Jokic doesn't foul out of this game, then you kind of take it. But I thought Jokic was just like kind of a mess offensively for a lot of this game. But they needed him on the floor because the Pelicans immediately went on a 17-9 run. Like they literally went on a 10-0 run as soon as Jokic went out of the game in like 90 seconds. And then it was just like, okay, guys, bleed clock. But then they kept going fast on offense. And it was like, oh my God. DA actually addressed this on the post game where he was like, well, first they were pressing us and like forcing turnovers and whatever. Then eventually we started to break the press. But we went to try to score immediately off of that. And I needed to tell the guys, like, you don't need to score immediately just because you broke the press, especially when you're up late in a game that they've been going on a massive run on and all of that stuff. So I'm like, well, I think it's good that it was as obvious to him as it was to me how much of a like disaster the end of that game was. But I wanted to give credit to Jonas Valanciunas for hitting 2 huge mid-range jump shots in the last 90 seconds of this game to essentially put the game out of reach from the Pelicans and stave off what would have been like the stupidest collapse of the NBA season so far.
Man,
because Denver led by 19 in like the last 5 minutes of this game. And then it was like, oh, like what is happening right now?
I mean, not to say that Jonas is the exact player as Jokic, but when Jokic fouled out and Jonas was just able to hit, like one was a wide open midi and the other one is a little more contested, and that one was even deeper, the contested one. It reminds me of Jokic, like, making amazing. He doesn't like always do face up midi shots, but he can, and he usually hits them. And just reminded me of having a stable presence, and he lived up to the moment and stabilized us. And to see a backup center do it, I'm still just enjoying the hell out of that. It's amazing seeing Valanciunas play.
Yeah. I like, and that line drive midi and his 3-point shot, frankly, I never think it's going in. And then sometimes it just swishes and you're like, thank God, like his shot is flatter than Kawhi's or like on that level. And you're like, how did that go in?
Yeah.
But yeah, this was definitely a team effort. Shout out also to Bruce and Spencer, who really I forgot to say Zeke started in this game because AJ missed it. Well, okay. AG missed time and Zeke started. I don't know why they did that. they tried to match up somebody against Zion, and I actually thought Zeke did a good job on Zion, but didn't really do anything else well, and that's, like
Mm-hmm. That was
it's
the
kind
whole
of like the
reason to
same
start him.
conversation I had about, like, what makes, like, a good like, all-around offensive player versus, just, like, even if you look at someone being able to, like, score efficiently. Just because you can defend a player, like, one-on-one well, doesn't mean you're going to have, like, an overall high positive defensive impact, on
Yeah.
the game. And I don't think it's Zeke's fault, like, he didn't do a lot wrong in this game, it was just, like, there wasn't a lot going well outside of, like, forcing some misses on Zion. Um,
Yeah. I mean, it was kind of predictable with AG out and needing someone to match up on Zion, go with technically the vet who has that body in some way. And also, I think Zion looks so, like, obviously he lost weight, but like he looks so small. Like when AG played him in the last game,
'Cause he's so
AG
short, he's, like,
looked
6'6".
so much bigger than him. It was crazy to me, but whatever.
Yeah, he's
You
just,
know,
like, dense, but he's very compact.
yeah, but put Zeke on him. I kind of get it, but I'm not surprised that like it wasn't a very successful showing from
Outing.
Zeke. Um, I
Especially for someone like some people pointed out, like, he hasn't played at all this season, like, outside of garbage time.
yeah, but I'm
Um,
like,
and then he's thrust into the starting lineup, which is also why I'm like, "But why did we do that?"
that
You know?
is what his job is supposed to be. It's like
No.
stay ready. Like I know that you're Zeke Naji and you were gonna ride the bench for 10 years, but like you
He's
have to go
literally
out and work in the gym and then be ready if your name's called on it because you may not ever get another chance. And it's like, are you just giving up, man? I don't know. I tweeted earlier that Zeke's contract is the clown car contract because it's just like it's just more years and more money keep
Oh,
coming
yeah.
out.
That reminds me of the clown, like, tissue trick. Or
Yeah,
is that's a more of a magician thing when they
right,
keep pulling the tissues out of their sleeve.
right.
Yeah, never ending. The never ending story. All right, let's talk about the offense in this game against the Pelicans because I do think this was more of an offensive game outside of the 20 turnovers. Um, this was a little bit of a weird game for Denver's offense because without Christian and AG, especially in like you could tell easily in the Wolves game and the Bulls game, but also in certain plays last night. There are certain cuts that Christian makes that just open up other things for other players that were not there tonight, so they had to figure out how to generate other shots. But for the most part, I actually thought that Peyton did a pretty good job of filling in those, like, process, roles that Christian has, like, within the offense that have nothing to do with play finishing, on top of his 32-point night, which is why I thought this was such a great game from him. Um, First thing I wanna point out is Jamal was doing a great job of finding Peyton throughout this game, on cuts especially. If you could bring up Peyton's first bucket here. So Jamal drives in, gets doubled kind of in that low post area, and then Peyton kind of cuts in, flashes middle, and then he's got, and this is where, to your point about Peyton playing the two, he's got, is that Jose Alvarado or is that Jeremiah?
Uh,
That's Jeremiah Fears
yes,
on him. And they're kind of zoning up here. So Fears is technically trying to guard two. Got to worry about Cam on the back line as well. But the fact that Peyton flashed middle here instead of just staying out on the corner where the pass is going to be harder for Jamal to make, even if Zeke kind of tries to set an exit screen there. Like I thought that was great, and that was just like smart. An example of the times when you know Peyton can demonstrate his feel for the game that isn't always there, but we've seen flashes of it. We talked about it. We did a whole segment last year about Peyton as a zone buster, right?
yeah,
Um, yeah.
yeah, because he has length and vertical spacing. Like he can jump, and he has long ass arms. So I think he could use that more to his advantage and finish in the paint more consistently. We just
Yeah.
haven't really seen it, and he's smaller, so it's not like he's going to power his way a lot of the time. But
Like,
I
he's
liked what I saw from
skinnier. I
him right
wouldn't call
now.
him small.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Skinny.
Yeah. I think that because he's so skinny, like, he does need to develop a little bit more finesse in the paint. We just had a comment that was a nice move by Peyton. I thought this was nice, where he takes his time off 2 feet and gets to the shot the way that he feels comfortable with it, instead of, like, quickly forcing something up, which I do think he does a lot in other instances that are less successful. Okay, let's go to the transition layup. I believe this was another instance of Jamal finding Peyton here. Let's see. So they get this steal, and yep, just Peyton running the open floor, everybody running their line, and nope, nobody, like, everyone's concerned. That's what Viekislav said in the chat. I don't think DNVR is concerned with this.
Let's see if we can come back.
Okay,
Hey, I think we're
are
here.
we back? I can't see you though.
Can't see me
on my end.
Here
Like,
we go.
yeah. Okay. We're back. Yay. Uh all right. So that was did we show the full, yeah, we showed the full transition layup. We don't need to go back to that clip. Let's go to Peyton's cutting dunk. I thought this was a great read by Peyton on like, this was like in the middle of the action of a play. Oh, this was the other one. So this was just another good. This was another good just back cut by Peyton. They're completely ignoring him in the corner to go help with the action in the middle of the floor, and he's like, "I'm just gonna waltz in here," and then Jamal finds him. Pretty easy read, but some players don't make that read.
Sorry, was this the one you were wanting?
Yeah, no. That's one of them. There's gonna be another one. I just forgot. So maybe you want to explain the actual play going on here, Will.
Okay. Hopefully we're still good. Hold on, I'm checking.
Yeah,
the stream.
The YouTube
still good.
stream is going.
All right. So yeah, this is it looks almost like a horns alignment where they're like setting a little flare screen from the elbow, or Zeke is, for Jamal, and we have two people.
Like, what is Fears doing?
Out.
I'm confused.
Yeah, Fears, it looks like he literally tried to go chase Jamal around the screen.
I think he was trying to steal the ball from Val.
Oh yeah, he did. He gambled on it, which left Pwat open.
He totally flubbed that. Yeah.
Horrible. Damn. But that was a great Duncan finish. I mean, there was no one there to stop him.
How did Peyton get so open?
Yeah, he gambled on that from a million miles away. It almost looked like he was like gonna trail Jamal around a screen, and I was like, why are you helping from over there, man? But yeah, he gambled on that. You gotta make him pay, though. That's like the Christian way. Like, Christian was good at like cutting and punishing open driving lanes and like flashing and just dunking the hell out of the ball at the rim, and Peyton is following in his footsteps right there. Yeah,
and honestly, if Peyton cuts a few seconds earlier there, that's assuming that Val knows where he is, which not necessarily, because Val's facing the opposite direction. But if that were Jokic and Peyton cuts a few seconds earlier, he just gets a straight up open dunk, like off a pass directly from the big. Which is why you should not do that, Jeremiah Fears. Don't make that a habit whenever you play the Denver Nuggets. But the Nuggets always cut the Pelicans to death, and I don't understand why. Even when they were a good defense, Denver had no problem scoring on them in the paint.
The Pelicans are so bad that we might not get these Jokic masterclass games against them anymore. That was his calling card.
Because Jokic just you know what it is that they don't have Val anymore. And Jokic loved cooking Val. So.
Right. Now we use Val to cook the Pelicans.
Yeah. Thank you, Val, for cooking your old team for us. All right, let's go to the Peyton finish off the glass, because this is the one that I had in my brain before. So Jamal drives, and the Pelicans are kind of Jamal got the ball in the corner, and I thought the Pelicans did a good job closing out here. Who is this? Is this Herb Jones?
Yeah, it's Herb.
And then the Pelicans are fully zoned up, and then Fears is again having to guard 2. And they're like, Fears, you go guard Peyton Watson and Zeke Nashi because we're not worried about those players on the perimeter anyway. But Peyton decides to cut, and then Jamal makes this might have been a travel. Honestly, I don't know if he got the ball off before his foot hits the floor, but whatever. Finds Peyton on this pass, and then Peyton has a nice soft finish off the glass here.
Yeah, that's like the touch and control through contact. I mean, got a little contact on the body, but
I thought this could have been an and one.
Yeah, it could have been. And I love seeing that control in the face of that because I feel like that should be something in Pwat's bag, or at least, just like something he brings to the table, finishing through contact.
Yes. I want to bring up some more of Jamal's passing since we were on it. If you go to the first pass to Jonas in traffic for free throws. So I can't tell exactly what they were trying to run here. I think the Pelicans were kind of zoning up. It's like not a pick and roll. He kind of like waves Jonas off, but then the Pelicans don't move because they're just zoning up on Jamal. And then Jamal's able to make this pass to Jonas in like slight traffic, but traffic.
Yeah, that was
kind of almost
as close as you could get.
There.
That
and then,
little pocket pass was almost intercepted, but snuck it in there.
Well, you think this is as close as you can get, but let's go to traffic pass 2. This one was one where I was like, Jamal, what the hell are you doing? Rejects the double drag by Tim and Val. And then look at how he threads the needle to get this pass to Val in the middle of the floor. This is Herb trailing, and he's got Queen. Queen, by the way, not really as bad defensively as I thought he would be as a rookie. And maybe it's because we didn't really know the right ways to attack him, but he's got the wingspan. I thought his positioning was like not terrible. He's not like the biggest guy on the floor, so it was tough when Queen was at the 5. But I actually thought he did a decent job of just like having a high level of activity and largely avoiding mistakes on that end. Yeah. So some good passing from Jamal in this game. And those last 2, obviously, because they were for free throws, don't even add to his 8 assist total for this game. Or they aren't included in his 8 assist total for this game. So I just wanted to shout that out. Let's look at the Jokic hook off a repost. This was Tim Hardaway Jr. So Jokic drives in, throws out to Tim. And I think that Tim Hardaway Jr. has this reputation for just like, I'm immediately going to take the shot regardless of whatever. But one of the recurring themes for Tim on the Nuggets here is that when Jokic is on the floor, like he is happy to defer. Like not just happy to, but like very quick to and like precise in his passing to Jokic. He's made some really good passes on like Jokic face cuts in transition, even when he's like semi-open in the corner, in ways that he doesn't when Jokic is off the floor. Like if Jokic is off the floor, like that bad boy's going up, But this has been a really nice, I think, addition to our offense is that quick like entry passing to Jokic in a way that I think is kind of lacking throughout the rest of the roster.
Everything with or with Tim feels quick and feels smart.
Smooth,
like just good reads, good decision making.
Yeah.
Like
smooth.
Those risky shots when he pulls up, like you're saying, might seem overzealous. He makes them most of the time, which leads us to feeling happy. But like that was a good point. He could have shot there, and it was an easy entry pass to Jokic. And we were down by 10 right there. So I want to see a consistent, steady diet to Jokic in that situation.
Yeah, for sure. Good knowledge of like the just situational awareness. I wanted to point out another play that didn't result in points. The Bruce missed 3. I thought this was a good bounce back game for Tim Hardaway Jr. After kind of a rough outing against the Bulls. He only had 7 points. But okay, so on this play, if you could just start from the beginning again. It's a little handoff with Jokic. This is not going to count as a pick and roll, but it's very obviously a pick and roll rep. And this is one of those plays that happens that makes you question all those stats about how Denver runs the least pick and roll in the league. It's just because all our pick and rolls are just handoffs, So he's running some kind of I don't quite understand the not that I don't understand the offensive alignment. I don't know what the name of for this is. It isn't quite spread pick and roll because like Spencer and Peyton are not on the
They're
side,
inside the
and
3-point
Bruce is
line.
like hanging out kind of between the corner and the wing.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Everyone, almost
yeah.
4 Pelicans are in the paint on this drive too, which it's
Yes.
just Tim
They're
driving.
like box and oneing Tim
Yeah.
Hardaway Jr.
I
And
know the ball
then
is theoretically supposed to go to Jokic, and so you're
yeah.
overplaying that, but it
Well,
allows
no,
for
that like that's I think this was the right read. Like one of the things that we talked about a lot over the summer was like who are the guys on this team that are not only going to be able to make Jokic's life as a scorer easier by setting him up, but also make plays for other guys. And this was like a nice example of Tim doing that. He's done it a couple other times this season, but I'm going to try to start like looking out for it more. Because I think when we first got him, everyone really thought of him more as like this guy's a spacer. He's going to be like shooting a lot of catch and shoot threes, maybe pulling up in transition, but otherwise not really having too much of an on ball role. And we are seeing a bit of a role for him as like a secondary on ball creator, especially in these point Jokic minutes where a lot of the offense is kind of predicated on Jokic as the initiator, but this was one of those reps where like somebody else gets to kind of do that on ball creation.
And Spencer Jones did set a little flare screen for Bruce there.
Yes,
So just a little
exit screen and
fundamental type of instinct play from him, I guess.
yeah, it helps that his defender was already like 2 feet in the paint and like ignoring him.
Yeah,
right?
like he was probably unlikely to contest that one there anyway. But
yeah. All right, let's go to the Bruce floater. So this is one of those plays that I felt like looks very different if Christian plays in this game. If you could just go to the very beginning of it and then pause. So I have to explain a little bit of okay, I don't even have to explain because they're right where I want it to be. So empty side, post up for Jokic. If Christian or AG, frankly, is in this game, one of them is flashing middle, and this is just a dunk. Instead, Zeke is like not able to get past. Is that maybe Herb or Queen or Zion? I can't tell. His guy to like just get 2 feet in the paint there for Jokic to pass it, but he decides to set an exit screen, for Spencer Jones. And in my head, I'm thinking this play is dead, right? But Jokic is able to get the ball out to the corner. He's able to make that pass.
And Jones just rotates it. Do you think he should have shot it?
I mean, Bruce is open because the guy is rotating to him.
Yeah, true.
Bruce could have then passed it to Tim, but then Tim could have then shot it or re-entered to Jokic, and Jokic now has one like playing 1-on-1, probably with like a deep seal if he sees that the ball is coming to him from this direction. I like that Bruce made this play. Don't get me wrong. It's just that this is more of a simple possession if Christian or AG is on the floor and knows to just flash middle when that double comes off of him, instead of kind of, I think, settling for the exit screen. And I don't want to, this was not a criticism of Zeke because for what his role is on the team, and what is expected of him just doing this, was, like the correct play. It's just the fact that you're like, well, the Denver Nuggets just set an exit screen for Spencer Jones, who is not a reliable three-point shooter on this team. That's like something that defense lives with. Apparently not, though, because then they proceeded to rotate to him and leave Bruce like an open lane to knife in there. And then, tough shot. I think he banks that floater off the glass. But those are also the types of plays that you need guys on your team to make because in the playoffs there are going to be broken plays and you need somebody to just like do something.
Right. Yeah, it's like the offense is clearly going to be easier with, starters and AG and all and CB as well, but yeah, good play from Bruce Brown to finish there. And I like that Bulls game left a bad taste in my mouth with Bruce and Tim, so I'm glad to see a little bit more of smart plays and actual competent basketball.
Are you thinking about the 3.5 on 1 fast break opportunity where we didn't score?
I can't believe that one. That hurt my soul.
It hurt Jokic's soul too. All right, the other standout player from this game, as I've discussed, was Cam Johnson, who I thought was just straight up awesome offensively in this game. And I know he only scored, what, 14 or 16 points? But he was just doing a lot of good stuff, both on and off the ball. So first one I want to talk about is Cam beating pressure. Here where he gets a transition layup is Jeremiah Fears pressuring Cam, and Cam just like takes the ball the full 80 feet and gets a layup out of that. You're not always going to get that shot against a good team because like somebody will rotate. You'd imagine somebody would rotate fast enough. But Herb kind of hesitates there. I thought he could have probably blocked him. But good on Cam for beating his pressure, getting all the way downhill, and then able to create for himself. That's just great to see, right?
Yeah, a smooth finish from Cam at the rim.
Yes.
Man, that's all we need. Don't get crazy with it.
Next, let's look at the Tim Hardaway missed three. This was another example of Cam beating pressure. This time it was off the catch in transition. So he gets past, is that Trey Murphy? Collapsed the defense fully. And then, man, I thought this was going to rattle in. And then finds Tim on the wing for three. Yeah, so he beats Fears and then beats Trey Murphy. And then the whole thing is broken now because you forced the defense to, to fully rotate because you've beat your first guy off the dribble. So just like simple plays that Cam...
It's a great look.
Done well.
Great look for Tim. I mean, doesn't hit it, but comes down from, man, that was the most in and out ball ever. But yeah, it's downhill game from Cam that I thought we were going to see a lot. And I think we will keep seeing it. And good passes, good vision. It was a controlled drive. And I'm glad that you liked Cam's offense from the Pelicans game too, because clearly like the game with the Bulls, he hits a bunch of threes, so much easier to talk about. But I just want this to keep continuing. Good signs from Cam.
And like we're going to talk about the cuts. Like that stuff's been good since day one. And it just continues to be consistent for him. Cutting off of Jokic, especially. I'd like to see what that could look like potentially with the second unit. But I was talking with somebody online about this today. Feels like DA just only throws Cam out with the second unit when they like shit the bed in the first 5 minutes, and then he needs to just like sub in some starters. It's not really like an intentional thing for Cam to be playing with the bench so far, and I wonder if that's going to change at any point in the season. Gaiman says Cam got a decent layup package, but he's got to work on it. He picks options that can be blocked. I completely agree with that. I'm more impressed with his passing downhill than like the actual finishing. When there's anything like semi-contested, when things are open, I think he tends to make them. It's just the semi-contested stuff that's just like he doesn't have the same like athletic pop as like MPJ, like vertical pop, especially around the basket, and that much is evident. I also think that MPJ is a little bit more creative of a finisher around the basket. One of the things with Cam also is that he doesn't draw fouls in those situations. So he just kind of like gets blocked.
He thinks that
he's
like going
doesn't know what to do if like the first option isn't there. In terms of like finishing at the rim. So I'm more impressed with like the passing downhill. And I don't know, he's 29. I don't know how much his game can like change from here. But it would be nice for him to sort of mold it to kind of fit what Denver like his role within Denver.
Yeah, do you want to do this back cut that he had first before we go to?
I first want to look at the Peyton made three, because this was another one that was created by Cam Johnson on the ball in transition, collapses the defense, and then like this is a pretty creative pass. Like I think he's actually more creative of a passer than like finisher at the rim. He's had some like pretty wild passes this season that have sort of saved possessions. He's able to get this over the outstretched arms of Derek Queen also, which is probably why he passed the way that he did. But I thought that was like kind of a like insane adjustment to make for basically the first time that they've played against Derek Queen. We played the Pelicans earlier this year, but Queen only played in garbage time.
Yeah, and I mean, Jokic is literally, he's pretty open here.
This is actually kind of crazy. Like, I didn't realize this pass started as early as it did.
The fact that he decided to just pass it all the way
He's
over
looking at Yoke here
instead of just hitting Jokic is pretty nuts. I think you're right. Like the decision making is why I don't even know how he, and it's Peyton in the corner. Not that you shouldn't trust him, but I wouldn't trust him more than just hitting Jokic in the middle of the floor.
Right, but
you know
the other
Pelicans.
thing is like he's like, well, Yoke's in offensive rebounding position, so this is still a good play. Like it was right. It hit Peyton right in the pocket too. Like that was actually like perfect. Kind of an insane pass.
He knew exactly what he wanted to do right there.
Yeah. Yeah, the passing has been more impressive to me than even I thought it would be when the trade was first announced. And I'd like to see more of it. Like I want to see more on-ball reps for Cam.
Yeah.
If you could bring up the Cam back cut on Fears. Jeremiah Fears was just being abused by the Nuggets in this game. That was the other takeaway that I had.
He looks like he's still in high school.
Oh. I mean, like, what was he doing here? Like, Jamal didn't even have to set a screen. They didn't switch or anything. I guess Cam set the screen and then immediately slipped it.
Yeah, it was a very quick slip.
Like, Fears calls for a switch, I guess. And then,
did he? Yeah, I was wondering if he wanted to stay with Jamal because he was kind of leaning that way and Cam just kind of went with it.
I guess 14 also should have dropped more, but then he was like, well, I don't want to make the pass to Jamal easy. So then he recovers back to Jamal and then it's just curtains.
Yeah.
For us.
And it was a smooth layup too. Not contested or anything, but yeah.
Poppin says Cam's defense and versatility are definitely a thing. I am going to say that I'm happy to have been wrong based on the early season returns on Cam's defense. The on-ball defense in particular have been way, way, way better over the last, 6 or 7 games than the first 4, to where I was like, this guy is getting blown by like literally everybody. The off-ball stuff was good, and I think it's gotten better. And the on-ball the on-ball stuff went from like terrible to like, oh, he can like make an impact in certain matchups now. And like that's great to see also. Yeah. All right, last one is the Peyton corner 3, also generated by like Cam Johnson had his fingerprints all over this game. This was another just back cut by Cam taking advantage of Jose Alvarado trying to guard him, and Fears is like pressed up on Jokic, and then he's like, oh shoot, I gotta drop back here. He draws in, is that Trey Murphy?
Trey Murphy
and then is able to make this pass to Peyton in the corner.
Is that Queen?
Peyton
yeah.
It's almost like, why did Trey like recover like the wrong direction at first? But Peyton didn't move, so I wonder if like Cam confused him with where he looked, or
I think it's because he jumped.
Bad technique for Trey.
He jumped in the air, so there was nothing he could do.
Yeah, he had to like totally rotate around before running out.
But good confidence from Pwat to just like take that shot.
Yeah, like he hasn't had a lack of confidence in taking those open shots. It's about making them and doing all the other little stuff on offense, which I thought he, like I said, did in this game tonight. And I thought Cam just continues to do all the little things on offense on top of finally making his threes, and continuing to make the stuff inside the arc.
In Cam and Pwat, we trust. What a connection.
All right. That was it for the offense in the Pelicans game. I want to talk in our last segment here about the defense against the Wolves. I've got a few defensive clips against the Pelicans too, but I want to condense it a little bit because some of my favorite defensive clips were just not available on the NBA play-by-play stuff. Let's go to the Pwat steals cookies, which was one of the first really good defensive plays of the Wolves game. They're in a 2-3 zone, and Peyton, he's not the one like playing like I guess when you're in a zone like this, everybody's kind of playing free safety, but he comes in like really aggressively after Jaden gets the ball to deflect it, and then, Jamal gets recovers it, and they're able to get a nice fast break on the other side. And then he's able to confidently finish a layup with his left, by the way. Um, and I like when they get aggressive on the ball in the zone. That is like that's when I think the zone is most effective. And if you'll see, if you pull up that possession again, before Peyton comes in for the ball, Jaden flashes middle. And Tim, he doesn't fully like front necessarily here, but he kind of stunts in to make the entry pass to the middle just a little bit more difficult, or at least not as obvious, because Ant sort of thinks about like, oh, Tim pinches in, I should maybe pass to Julius, but then he pinches back out and the decision changes. That's the goal of the zone. Like, you're trying to confuse the defense. You don't want to make their reads easy, right? One of the things that this isn't quite the same as what Miami did to Denver in the finals, where I think starting from game 2 on, they would play the zone, and Caleb Martin would often, it was him, play. They were playing a 2-3, but then they really like fully sold out to where it became like this like 1-1-3 type of zone, where Jokic would flash middle and then be fronted by another small, and it was often Caleb Martin or like Gabe Vincent. Caleb Martin, I think, was better at it because Gabe Vincent was so short. It's like just lob it over the top. So this wasn't quite that, but the point is to make the decision tree a little bit more hazy usually for the person with the ball, right? Because you can't control the off-ball guys. Like, those are the guys that are going to kill you when you're playing a zone. But the on-ball guys and the ones that in their immediate vicinity to pass are the ones that you really want to impact. So I thought that was a good rep. Let's go to the AG steal on Julius. So this one I thought was another 2-3. I don't know what Rudy's doing on this possession. Like, he kind of doesn't know where, like, this is like one of those possessions where the Wolves are clearly very confused, and Devo's trying to get open. This was the AG stonewalling Julius.
Oh, which one did you want?
The AG steal on Julius. This was also a good rep because it just turns into like a really like contested drive. But this is another 2-3, and AG, like, this is going to be a dunk here, right? And AG is a little bit out of position, but he's able to like recover, and he's watching where Rudy's going to go for this back cut. I don't know why AG is standing where he is. Actually, it's kind of in retrospect some bad position.
Yeah, he just saw it at the last second, and uses his elite athleticism, as AG is. Not saying he's the fastest guy in the world, but great reaction time.
And then we immediately turn the ball.
Oh God. What happened on that pass?
That was good defense. This is like these are the kinds of possessions that made me say Denver really got that game out of the mud. Okay.
Yeah, they did.
This is not an easy offensive game. Vyacheslav said this is why we need AG against Randall. Not many can hold their position. I completely agree. Julius Randle is incredibly strong. Like, I have seen this man bury Jonas under the basket. And I will say that every time we talk about Julius Randle, because I think that his strength is really underrated. And there have been other matchups, frankly, where Julius buries AG under the basket. But this was I thought a pretty good defensive game from AG, not just on Julius, but just like the team defense as well. Let's see. Let's talk a little bit about. So this is a good defensive rep for Denver that I think Minnie just scores on because of a little bit of a mix-up at the very end. So if you could bring up the Nas made corner 3. I probably have like, oh my God, there are like 4 different Nas corner 3s here. Hopefully this is the first one. Okay, yeah. PTSD. So this is the one. If you look at this whole possession, Spencer Jones on Ant forces him middle, like into the crowd on this drive. Ant goes to pass out to Nas in the corner, and this is a situation where there's a miscommunication now between Bruce and Jamal. I think this is probably more on Bruce because Jamal's like trying to box out Jalen Clark. Like Bruce needed to go out to the corner here and like make that pass at least harder. Uh
Right.
if not just like not obvious at all. And so that's what, ruins what is otherwise like I thought a great defensive possession. And I thought that generally speaking, when Ant had the ball, Denver was really on it defensively. Like I said at the top of the show, they were showing so many blitzes and so many hard doubles to apply as like maximum pressure to the ball when Ant had it. When somebody else did, they were playing more conservative coverages, and that's fine because I thought that, some mixed results throughout the game. They were down at half. Thought the Wolves were scoring really well, especially in that like second quarter, which is what, gave them the lead in the first half of the game. But I still thought Denver's defense was like helping them hang in a game where the offense wasn't like clicking on all cylinders kind of thing. And then obviously they're able to come back in that second half. But when
Mm-hmm.
Ant had the ball, especially, they were like, no, you know?
Which
Um,
that's the formula theoretically is really pressure his drives, send multiple guys, try to
well,
make him make a
ideally you're doing that
pass.
and not letting them have like Nas Reed shoot like 10 open threes kind of thing
Yeah.
either. And so that's why you have to like finish those defensive possessions. You need to like keep up the execution
Everyone's
at
got to
every
be
phase.
locked in.
Yeah.
And Jamal did try to contest that. Maybe
did.
not even his job there if Bruce had rotated, but yeah, and you kind of dare Ant to make those passes sometimes, and I think he does okay at them. Like I think the idea that he's always going to throw some turnovers understated, but it can happen, and you have to try to force the ball out of his hands at least. But yeah, I agree. Nas in the corner is scary for me.
Right. Now let's talk about a couple of possessions where I thought the Wolves started to get very comfortable versus the zone because I think there was less pressure being applied on the ball. If you could go to the next Nas made corner three in the list here. So if you see here, like Julius gets the ball in the middle of the floor and we're in the double big look, which is already kind of weird, but whatever. Like he's just standing in the middle of the floor, like looking around, like trying to make a decision. No pressure's being applied to him.
Shopping in the mall.
Yes, exactly. And then obviously, like Nas gets the pass very easily and is able to shoot. And
Jonas didn't even try; he just stood there.
Yeah, he was just like, "I'm not gonna," because I mean, he's gonna get driven on. But I think when you've got the two bigs on the floor, you kind of have to like take that chance a little bit and hope the other guy is able to like recover and contest in the paint. But Yoke also has to worry about Jaden all the way behind him too, so it does get a little bit complex. But that's why I think the pressure being applied at the top to try to make the decision maker's job harder is really important to try to slow down these possessions. There was, and here it was Jamal and Peyton at the top of the zone here. Jared Dudley, defensive coordinator for the Denver Nuggets, actually did an interview with a friend of the show now, Bennett Durando, over at the Denver Post, where he talked about his defensive philosophy for the team and what it means to try to we know that a big objective of the Denver Nuggets defense is to like protect Jokic. And Bennett in this article writes, in the Nuggets' old system, the MVP center always played in an aggressive position higher up the floor. We know that Jokic playing up the level in pick and roll. There are other like actions you need to guard, but a lot of the time it's guarding pick and roll, and they would play up at the level. Dudley doesn't want him burning so much energy defensively. He would rather Denver's guards and wings have more difficult and taxing responsibilities at that end, so Jokic's battery can be maximized on offense. And a lot more, like, I highly recommend this article if you just look up Jared Dudley interview Denver Post. It's the first one that comes up on Google. The guards need to not only be responsible for like flying around on the back end, and on that possession, like there was no, except like Peyton tries to like run out to the corner contest. It's kind of his job to do that, but like Jonas is more in position to do that. And I don't expect Jonas to do that because of the kind of defender that he is. Like, he's like, I don't want to get blown by. Right. So it's more, I think, incumbent upon the guards and wings to apply appropriate pressure at the top of the play to make that pass harder, make it so Peyton has time to rotate back out to the corner. Make it so that Julius makes the wrong pass because he's made the wrong read. There are all these different like layers to it. And I think that really when it comes to like the zone possessions that I like versus ones that I don't, it's all about how much pressure is being applied at the top there. Because I think like again, if the point of a zone is to slow down your opponent's offense and confuse them, like being able to apply pressure on the ball and not let the decision maker have all the time in the world to make the quick and simple easy pass to the open man, like you have to get pressure there, right? If you could bring up the pest graphic. I think this kind of illustrates my concern with this here. So Pest is just a team, like this is a team ranking that effectively measures like defensive aggressiveness on the ball. And Denver ranks dead last right now in this season. And I knew it was bad, but I didn't realize it was that bad. Unsurprisingly, the Toronto Raptors, who are forcing, I think, the highest turnover rate in the league right now, are number one. OKC, you maybe thought would be a little bit higher, but they're down at number 6, still, in that top echelon of teams in that regard. Atlanta, high up there, probably largely driven by Dyson Daniels, for example. But you've got Denver down there with Utah, Houston, and the Clippers, who are just kind of sad right now. But the thing that Denver and Houston share, and Houston is a really good defense by the numbers too, but they also have athletic personnel, is that they've got all these bigs that aren't necessarily the most mobile. And so maybe this is just always going to be a personnel stat. But I also think, based on even just Denver's perimeter personnel, that we have the ability to be a bit higher up in these rankings than we currently are. And currently, like, Denver's dead last, and it's not close, in this particular like advanced metric. So how do you feel about this particular concept about like aggressiveness at the top of the zone? I think it's a little bit different than like having one like really like maybe hyper aggressive point of attack defender that just gambles, because you've got two guys on the ball often in most of the zones that you're talking about. Well, so like how do you feel about like that concept of like getting pressure up top at like the initial stages of
I mean, I have always, I don't know as much about having that point of attack pressure on the zone because so many of the gaps are open. You know what I mean? And like you're supposed to drive, you're supposed to pass or just shoot. But I mean, it's the old saying where it's like a lot of the best defenses start at the perimeter. And as soon as someone goes by or you blow a coverage there, then you're rotating or you're getting back cut or lots of problems from there. I mean, we had questions
Denver
too.
was getting back cut by the Bulls without having any
yeah. Well, if someone just
top,
just on the back end loses all attention and gets back cut, then someone's going to find them. But yeah, I think it's incredibly important. I think it's still underrated by fans, where so many fans talk about defense being rim protection and those kind of things. And I still don't get some of the time why bigs get so overstated in their defensive impact when the perimeter D is what oftentimes separates some of the best defenses from the shittier ones.
Yeah. I think it's probably more like a floor ceiling kind of argument. Like, really good point of attack can really raise your ceiling, but like just having good rim protection kind of gives you a defensive floor. In a way that frankly, I don't think a really good point of attack, not just one defender, but like a couple of defenders, can't give you if you are otherwise a bad defense, if that makes sense. But I completely agree. If the goal is championship and the idea is to be one of the better, even if not one of the best, but like, one of the better, like top 10, like defense in the league, like you should be aiming high in some of these metrics. The other thing I talked about, like the guys that are like at the top of the zone that are on the ball applying pressure. But it's not like I said in that possession where Tim kind of stunts into Jaden and kind of makes the decision of the pass harder, even though he's not directly on Ant. His goal as Tim Hardaway Jr. on that possession was to make Ant's decision harder. And I think that is also should be part of the defensive calculus there. And that's one of those things that is more of, as Jared Dudley has stated, that he wants it to be more of a responsibility of the guards and the more mobile players in the zone to um to move a little bit more and like take responsibility for making a zone very pesky. It's not like if you play a zone you won't be like a highly aggressive defense. I think some of the best zone defenses in the league are have very aggressive defenders involved, both kind of on the ball but also on the interior, making the decision of the person who's on the ball more difficult. Like the Miami Heat, who are ninth in these past rankings, and that matches the eye test because they have all these like highly mobile players that just make the decision harder in the moment. That's the thing with the zone, is like once you have like quick, simple decision makers making those quick, simple decisions, you can immediately carve it up. But the goal of the zone should be to make those decisions not simple, right? All right. So let's look at one more here. The last Nas corner 3. I think this was just another example of no pressure being applied in the zone. And I just want to show this one because I'm going to talk a little bit about the contrast between what it's kind of a very morphing possession here. So who starts with the ball at the top of this one? Was it Ant? So
and then
he doesn't in this one, Ant doesn't get like blitzed up top. He's just like, Randall, you take this. And Tim Hardaway Jr. scram switches out of the Julius matchup. And so now he's going one-on-one against Val. Jokic pinches in, and honestly, I'm okay with like Julius going one-on-one against Val. Maybe he does blow all the way past for a layup. Maybe you force him into a slightly tougher, like short mid-range shot. I wouldn't have pinched in if I were Yoke right there. But I think that the whole possession kind of falls apart when it's like Julius just kind of gets to do whatever he wants here. And this wasn't even a zone possession, it's just like a man possession where they had to scram switch Tim out. But it's not like Julius like punished that by taking a 3 while they were scram switching out or anything like that. It's just like, okay, now I get to attack this matchup. It was interesting. It was interesting, like, use of the double bigs. We got a few more minutes of that in the Wolves game, and then we get it again in... Did we get it against the Bulls? No, it was against the Pelicans yesterday. We got a pretty extended stretch of the double bigs in that game. So it's just interesting to see how they're trying to run their zone in those minutes. Obviously, it's a tough matchup with the Wolves going 5 out with Julius and Nas, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
We did have one.
Yeah.
Because we're going to move on to some other steals and things of that. We have someone asking for a Spencer steal, and I know that clip's coming up.
Yes, I do. I do have the clip of Spencer. We're going to go over that because I thought Spencer Jones was so good. I thought he was good live watching the game, against the Pelicans. On rewatch, he was so active defensively, both on and off the ball. Like, I thought his and Bruce's energy was so infectious and really helped pick Denver up after a pretty slow start in that game. All right. So I want to talk about the defense against like the Pels, which are like, they're a worse team than the Wolves, just obviously, right? But these two teams share some similarities in how they attack and in ways that I think inured to Denver's benefit, especially in contrast to the Bulls. It's like I said, the Bulls, the Chicago, Minnesota Bulls. In contrast to the Chicago Bulls, the Bulls and the Pelicans guys, when they catch the ball, especially in the corners, they're trying to drive into traffic. The Bulls were like, no, we're going to take our open shots, right? And that really caught Denver off guard because that was like tough decision, or sorry, they turned like what should have been um like a tougher defensive environment into like a very easy one by making the simple choice. The Wolves and the Pelicans, I think, bailed Denver's defense out a bit, and that's fine. That's still Denver still played, I think, much better defense in both of those games than they did against the Bulls. But it helped a lot that both of those teams really like to just drive into traffic from the corners. So we're going to see a lot of that in these subsequent clips. The first one, we're going to go with the Peyton steal. And this was actually credited to Zeke, and I had it credited as a steal by Peyton in my notes, but I also give credit to Zeke. I thought he had good positioning here on Zion. This was just a good example of like Zeke objectively made Zion's individual life hell in this game. Like he could not get anything going. And I thought this was good recovery by Zeke on a scramble situation where Zion would have otherwise had an opportunity to come in, make an athletic play, get an offensive rebound, do the whole thing. Because everybody's preoccupied with Derek Queen having the ball and maybe trying to get a defensive rebound. But then Zeke, I thought, did a good job of recovery, like remembering, like, oh, I'm on Zion. He's still on this side of the floor. I need to make sure that he doesn't do anything here. Okay. Yeah, Zeke got a steal. Didn't even know.
Zion, you just got shut down by Zeke Naji.
That happened last year as well. Yeah, in one of these like sad Pelicans games in like the second half of the season.
Damn Zion.
Let's go to the Fears missed midi here. I don't remember what happens on this possession. Okay, so I wish they showed like the very beginning of this possession, but I loved like this. The last few seconds are actually pretty indicative of what was going on the whole possession, where like everybody was flying around, and you've got Bruce. Jamal had made a couple of closeouts. Tim had made a closeout. Cam had made a really good closeout, and forcing the Pelicans to drive to the middle of the floor and then make a tough contested decision. Not just a tough contested shot, but a tough contested decision. And I think this was like off of the like 4 or 5 passes on this possession to generate what is not a great shot, a long jumper by Jeremiah Fears. And I thought that
shot
this
clock was winding down there.
Yes, exactly. Oh my gosh, so close to my favorite kind of defensive possession, which is a shot clock violation. I love a steal. That's probably my first favorite, but Denver doesn't generate turnovers, so I don't like those. But I love a good
depriving you of your favorite defensive attribute.
They are. Yeah, Tim knows where to be and what to do. He knows he's playing 2 in that position, and I thought he was positioned just right to be able to close out to the corner. He's like really much quicker than I thought he was. And so far he's been a pretty good off-ball defender, which I didn't expect to say even at this point in the season. It's still early, but I want to give him credit for being good to this point.
If you can't be the elite on-ball defender, do your damnedest to be a great off-ball defender. Be in position. Right. That just takes knowledge and like experience half the time.
Yeah. All right, let's go to the Spencer wingspan steal. So this one was great. Spencer doesn't even have to fight over the screen here. He just has a good, long enough wingspan to take advantage of the fact that Derek Queen, like Nikola Jokic, is a big and has to dribble the ball slightly further away from his body. And so he's able to just come in and knock the ball away from him. And I believe we score. Bruce maybe gets a fast break layup on this possession.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just get it to Bruce, and it's
fast. And then
Queen,
I think that was his.
Didn't even want to stop the ball. He'd rather go to Tim. But I'll take it.
Yeah. In addition to this, Spencer had drawn a charge on Sadiq Bey. That was another great, like, guys flying around possession. Let's go to the Trey Murphy made 3, which I actually thought was a hellacious defensive possession that just ended in like the stupidest end of clock, like shot that you've like ever. Not the stupidest end of clock shot you've ever seen, because I'm sure that Jokic has made some crazy bullshit. But with like 2 seconds, like Trey's not even in position yet with like 4 seconds on the clock.
And
You've got three guys on that side of the floor.
there's essentially two guys on. Is this Jordan Hawkins,
Yes.
Murray, and Bruce?
Yes.
And somehow he gets completely free.
Yeah,
Man.
that's not great. But they like I thought that was pretty good maneuvering by Jordan Hawkins.
Yeah.
Um, but we made them really work for that shot. I just thought that that possession was illustrative of the gap between like execution, like issues happen, but the gap between the effort in the Bulls game versus this Pelicans game. Like clearly the team wanted to have a bounce back, and that was
Mm-hmm.
evident from the beginning of the game. Even though I said they had a slow start, it was mostly on offense. They just kept turning the ball over. On defense, even though the Pelicans were scoring, it was a lot in like points off turnovers, like fast breaks, that kind of thing. In the half court, I thought Denver was doing a pretty good job from the beginning of the game. Um, relatively good job, and that's relative to the Bulls game because they were actually trying in this one.
Yeah, it wasn't really the bounce back I expected of total domination,
Well, it
but because
almost was in the
yeah, it
fourth
almost
quarter
was.
anyway, because it took a
Yeah.
while to build up that lead in the first place. But
But just those turnovers, yeah,
yeah.
so weird.
Um, let's go to the Bruce Steele one. I can't remember which one this is because he has two great ones. Okay, so this is one that we saw earlier in an earlier clip because it results in that fast break from Peyton. But this was just a good, I think, on ball rep for Bruce. Who's he guarding here? This is Jordan Hawkins. Jordan Hawkins, you are not long for the Pelicans rotation. He's unfortunately their Julian Strother right now. I'm surprised he actually played in this game because he hasn't necessarily been playing every game.
Yeah,
Uh,
we saw. Did we see this earlier?
yeah, because it was
Okay, yeah,
Peyton's fast break.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Okay.
good
Oh,
defense and strip by Bruce right there.
yeah.
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 All right.
Let's go to Bruce Steele 2. Okay, this was Bruce coming in to steal Zion's cookies when he turns so Bruce doesn't fully go with Jordan Hawkins, and he just comes in and like pokes the ball away, and
It
then
was a
he's able to get the
weird
fast
like
break
pick
here.
and pop from Zion and Hawkins right there.
Yeah, I guess Jordan should have like come to the top of the key.
Yeah,
The whole
because then he has
spacing,
to turn his back.
like
Zion,
why
yeah.
is wait, who's 21
That is.
for the Pelicans?
Can't see who that is.
Wait, is that
Misi?
Misi? Okay.
Yeah.
Spacing out to 3, like, yeah, nobody's paying attention to Misi. The whole paint is fully clogged on Zion trying to run this with Jordan. And then I think Zion probably would have found Hawkins, but I think Bruce just does a good job of, reading as soon as
Sticking
Zion
with it.
turns and then getting the ball from him, just like a bunch of teams were doing to Jokic last season in that same position,
Yeah.
Um, all right, and then the last one I've got here is the Cam steal, and this one I thought was the one that sealed the game. I think this is the one that put them up 19. Cam on the ball on Trey Murphy.
Oh my
Peyton
God.
comes in for like really aggressive, not even nail help because the Pelicans are like fully extending the floor here because of how far out Fierce is spaced. But Peyton comes
It's a
in.
switch.
They're like Trey Murphy, why don't you go hunt Cam Johnson? And then Cam and Peyton are just like, give me that. and,
Oh, amazing play. I love ending with a Cam Johnson defensive play and dunk in transition.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah, I just hope that the defensive pressure and reads from Cam continue to impress and feel reliable as the season goes on, because I know it was a big question and part of the reason why we might have been looking forward to having him replace MPJ.
Yeah. It's a different skill set for sure. And even some of the things that I thought were going to be like similar between the two have started to be shored up. In terms of like that on ball, like how often are you getting blown by kind of thing. Anything else that you want to say about these defensive games?
No. We do have some people wanting to ask some questions, though.
Oh yeah, sure. Hit me.
You want to go to that? Poppin's asking about what you think about our bad clutch performance as of this
Regression.
season.
Like, there's a couple of things going on. I think that the Nuggets don't have an easy. The Nuggets don't know what they're going to in the clutch right now. They've been trying too many different things, and I think when you have, like, the one go-to of Jokic Murray pick and roll, um, it's easier because it's good to have, like, the one thing you always go to, you know? Like, the Thunder have SGA ISOs, who are other good clutch teams?
I haven't looked at
The
the
Bulls
rating
just
yet.
do like, they have Giddy, like, collapse the paint, kick out to shooter, apparently, like, every friggin' game. Um, so I think that's part of it. I think that they're trying to reckon with the way that other teams are guarding just, like, the simple pick and roll now. The other problem is, like, defensively, they've not been on it in the clutch over the last 2 years.
Mm.
Nuggets are actually, like, 19th in half court defense right now. That was as of before the Pelicans game. I can see where they're at right now. And that's, you know, mostly what you're talking about in the clutch is half court defense, and those are obviously better numbers than full game, but relative to how the rest of the league does in the half court, Denver's not very impressive there. So they need to shore that up. I think the defensive, um, I think the coverage. It's funny because like whole game, I would say when they have a bad defensive game, it's mostly an effort thing. But in these clutch situations, I do think that the coverages can be better just in terms of knowing your personnel and time and score awareness. Against the Bulls, they got like stop after stop after stop after stop, and then they couldn't score, right? And then they finally scored, and then it was that next they brought it to within one, and it was that next possession where DA loses the challenge and the Bulls get the ball back, and then they leave Vucevic open at the top of the key for a three in a situation where the only shot that you should not allow is a three. Um, that was really tough. There have been a lot of those, I think, more than anything is like, what are they doing with like time and score? The Pelicans game never technically got to like official clutch time, which is like within 5 points in the last 5 minutes. Um, but especially after Jokic fouls out, we're up. The Bulls are, or the Pelicans are bleeding through our lead. And the Nuggets kept going early on offense instead of bleeding clock. And DA, like I said, DA talked about that after the game.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot of that stuff. It's just like they really got to clean this stuff up, but it's very fixable stuff. Like I don't think it's like they're inherently not clutch kind of thing.
Yeah.
There are very like specific areas that they need to improve.
Yeah, like we know Murray can be clutch. We know Jokic can be clutch. We know the team can be clutch. We did it for like a whole season before, and part of it's probably new personnel and a whole new coaching staff. I'd imagine, and like you said, defensive effort not being there is going to make it harder to pull out games. And last season, it was like we kind of sucked at defense until it was clutch time. Then it was like everyone was trying noticeably harder on defense, and I don't know that we're doing that as much now. But even like, you know, like Matt Moore always is skeptical of clutch stats and
Small
clutch
sample
ratings where it's
size,
like,
right?
yeah, and it's like you can be a really clutch team, but sometimes like in any given game, a clutch time won't go your way and Giddy will make a shot and Vooch will hit a shot. It doesn't
Yeah.
mean you're not going to be on the other end of that and win some clutch games. You're still going to lose some, but I'm
Yeah.
not like worried about it right now. It is weird though. I'm more
I,
like annoyed that we just lost to the Bulls at home than like the clutch
yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
Like more generally than the fact that it was in the clutch. Like, why were we in a clutch game with the Bulls at home is more of the
Mm-hmm.
question. The last thing I'll say about the clutch time stuff is just that uh the Nuggets were like the clutchest team in 23-24, and then they lost games in the clutch to the Wolves, like at home, like multiple games in the clutch. They also like were still not as good of a home team as they were the title year, but still like the like second best home team in the league that year. And then they lost 3 home games in a series against the Wolves. It's just like small sample size stuff, and um, yeah, the Bulls were able to take advantage. J.K. Wallace says clutch defensive rating went from top 3 with KCP to 12-15 last year and dead last in the last 3 years with super small samples. I agree. So I do think that the loss of KCP meant a worst half court defense because of how like stout he was defensively. Like that point of attack stuff like really comes in handy early in the clutch. Or not early in the clutch, but in clutch time. And I think that Denver needs to shore up like what they want to do in those situations. Last year it was like still a disaster. It was a lot of like we are in rotation every single possession because we cannot stay in front of the ball. This season I do think that they have a better opportunity to try to avoid those kinds of situations. But the other thing is, like, the problems in clutch time have been a little bit different each game, and that's what happens when you're talking about small sample sizes. So it's really, like, just a matter of, like, cleaning up as many of these margins as you can, and hoping you can come away with some close wins in the future. Okay, so a couple of stats I wanted to share in our last minute, like, mini cherry picking segment. We talked a couple of weeks ago about some of the stats that have stabilized to this point in the season. Like, what are the things that you can trust about this team statistically? Defensive rating has not yet stabilized, guys, so we cannot trust being currently the third best defense in the league. Especially because it's so dependent on our opponents having such poor three-point shooting. But defensive rebounding is a stat that stabilizes right around 14 games, which the Nuggets are at right now. And they are currently 5th in defensive rebounding percentage, which is huge after a season where they were 18th there, right? And I do think a lot of that is like Jokic has been so much better about it. And it's really a good number to see because I was worried losing MPJ or going from MPJ to Cam that the starters especially would experience a bit of a drop off in defensive rebounding, but they've gotten a little bit better. The other area where Denver's made a lot of improvement here is with the bench, obviously having like Val there as opposed to like Zeke plus sporadically DJ, who DJ is really good defensive rebounder too. But I think that those lineups have been better in that particular regard. The next one, true shooting percentage. The Nuggets are at 61.7% true shooting as a team, which is second to the Los Angeles Lakers, which is insane. Like, that actually explains a lot about why that team has been so good. It's just like they've been like on absolute fire. Let me see their shooting splits as a
Let me just say that I was definitely wrong about the Lakers, at least so far. Very wrong about the Suns. And not right enough about the Clippers.
The Lakers are number 1 in rim efficiency. They're shooting almost 71% at the rim as a team. That's the Luka effect. Like, he's getting those guys as many lobs as they can handle. They're also number 1 in mid-range efficiency. Will, do you want to know what the Lakers are shooting from mid-range as a team?
Yes.
Why don't you guess? It is an absurdly high number.
Okay.
Think of like the best mid-range shooter that you can like conjure up. And then I'm at like
I don't even know what KD shoots on mid-range jumpers.
You're like above 50%.
63.
Okay, no, that's ridiculous. No, but they're shooting 53.6% from mid-range as a team right now.
Damn.
Like, that's kind of insane. They're not shooting well from 3. So there is an opportunity for some mid-range regression to like hit them. But I do think that like the rim numbers are scary for me as a Nuggets fan that knows like we're not going to be able to stop the lobs.
Yeah. We have a comment from Sammy Infer who was saying the Nuggets could use Steady Gillespie.
They could. He's been really good for Phoenix this year.
I know.
Okay, last 2 stats here. Opponent effective field goal percentage. So how well your opponent's shooting. Denver is 5th in like a good way, as in what like our opponents are shooting the 5th worst against us versus against other teams. This is driven mostly by still being number 1 in opponent 3-point percentage, because everybody except the Bulls can't make threes against us so far this season. But we have seen in a game like versus the Chicago Bulls how that 3-point shooting regression can hit like a Brinks truck to a degree that makes you really question how good this team actually is defensively. But they also played it was like a combination of like the Bulls shot well and the Nuggets were the worst they've been defensively, I think, all season. I think that was worse than opening night, to be honest, because I think at least opening night they were trying, but there were a lot of execution failures. I thought the Bulls game was just bad. Bad
Yeah, it was
all around.
horrible. Yeah, one of the worst games we played.
Yeah. And then we're 16th in terms of opponent efficiency at the rim. So, that's good. Not the best rim protecting team, not the worst, Hashtag not last. I'll take that. And then the last thing, which is something that I hate, is Denver is currently 28th in opponent turnover percentage. Like I was talking about in the defense segment, it just feels like a real missed opportunity to not be more intentional with the goal of the zone, which should be to shock and awe / confuse the opponent, in my opinion. Hard to argue with top 3 defense, but I also think they've had a lot of opponent shooting luck in that regard. So, yeah. Anything else you want to say here, Will, before we sign off?
Do you think Spencer Jones gets a contract?
I'm going to say no. It really depends. Like they give him a contract if they're able to move either Hunter or Zeke, but not otherwise. Yeah. I think because like the reason that we only have 14 players on our roster right now is because they think they have a chance at ducking the luxury tax at the deadline, and they're currently $800,000 above that. Signing Spencer Jones would not help them duck the luxury tax. So it's really just like if they think they can get through the season and the playoffs without giving Spencer Jones a full-time contract, they will do that. Barring them making any kind of move to dump money or other like money / other players at the deadline in the form of Hunter, Zeke, maybe even Julian. So I'm going to say no, because I'm cynical about what they'll be able to do at the deadline, even though I want something to happen.
Yeah. Gonna break some hearts of people in the chat who are very high on Spencer Jones, or just loving Spencer Jones and his efforts. And
he'll probably just get a contract from us next summer, though. Like we have the right of first refusal because he's our 2-way guy. That if another team tries to give him a minimum, we give him it's kind of like he kind of becomes an RFA next summer. So that's the other reason, is they're just like, we're under no pressure to do this. The only reason to give him one is that he becomes so integral to our rotation that they need him to be on a standard contract so that he can play in the playoffs.
Yeah. Which I think some people are thinking right now, but we'll see.
Yeah, we will see. We shall see. Well, if you've made it this far, we appreciate you guys the absolute most. If you like our content, please remember to click the like button, hit the subscribe button, as well as the notification bell, and leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. You can follow us on socials. All the links are in the description. I'm losing my voice right now. And always remember that winning is fun and losing sucks.